All right. Hello. This is B, and I'm the intelligence that David channels. What we're here to do today is to settle into some hard truths. And the reason why we're here is because now more than ever, there's a necessity to acknowledge these hard truths or collectively face some massive consequences. There are dystopian realities lingering over the horizon that are very possible. And they have been possible for quite some time, but now, more than ever, they are more probable than they have been in any recent time. We want to be with these hard truths here openly, because this acknowledgement is the very thing that derails that trajectory. So there are a few things here. But first and primarily, there is a deep recognition for spiritual individuals that this dystopian reality cannot be bypassed with love or bliss or vibration or thought. It must be acknowledged as a possibility. Acknowledging that there are circumstances that are challenging, acknowledging that there are circumstances that may only continue to get worse if nothing changes, is not creating those circumstances. That is one of the largest lies of darkness in spiritual communities today, that if you acknowledge challenges, that you are creating them. And if you ignore those challenges, they will go away. That is not enlightenment, that is disassociation. That's passivity. That's sitting back, waiting for things to happen, and hoping that someone smarter, someone holier, someone brighter, someone more eloquent, someone who has the words, who knows what to do, will fix things. That's not how this world works. Never has been. Spiritual people have a deeper connection to their intuition than the large majority of the population. And still, there is a disassociation from what's here to the point of that intuition not even being useful, not helping. There's a deep necessity to re-engage with this world, re-engage with that deep intuitive knowing by recognizing that there's something wrong here. Everyone can feel it. Everyone can see it. There are plenty of different rationalizations for how things are going to get better in the future if the entirety of the population just falls in line with the perspective. But that's also not how this world works. What's required for your planet's ensured safety well into the future, for things to continue to go ideal, for there to still be room for this light, for this transition here, is that spiritual people acknowledge that their intuition is true and valid, and they acknowledge within their intuition the messages that they're receiving about how there truly is something wrong here. There truly is corruption here that must be addressed, must be focused on, must be acknowledged. And it flies in the face of every mainstream spiritual teaching, because doing this is not easy, it's not comfortable, and it doesn't feel like bliss. It feels deeply challenging. There is an emotional intensity barrier to this acknowledgement that many spiritual individuals are being completely unwilling to leap over despite their soul's call to do so, because it doesn't feel good. And as they engage with the world, they pull back to rediscover their own bliss in meditation, their own positivity, their own joy, their own positive outlook about their life and business, that no, everything will be okay for me. Maybe I can move into another reality where this doesn't exist. Maybe I can move into a reality separate from these dystopian futures that seem to be just over the horizon. But you're all in this together. There is no moving into another reality separate from everyone else here. You are on earth. And the hard truths about earth must be acknowledged. Spirituality, your intuition, your connection has never been about you feeling good and making money. You being wealthy and famous, having a nice home, nice cars, living a cushy life, the dream life. It's never been the point of spirituality. And yet there's plenty of distortion within spiritual communities that alludes to that being the real path. Learn to manipulate the world around you for your own personal gain and disassociate from everything that's hard. There is an active effort on this planet to disengage the individuals most connected to their intuition from this world so that they don't interfere. And if you focus on your bliss and your joy, while there's something genuinely wrong happening here in this reality, then you are being duped. Then the infiltration of this spiritual community has made it to you and presented itself as false light. And this false light needs to be called out and acknowledged along with the rest of it. There's something wrong here. There's more to this life than fame and wealth through energetic manipulation. And there's more to these circumstances than positivity. Why have I been allowed? Why have I allowed myself to disengage from all of the hard realities? And in doing so, turning a blind eye to everything I came here to bring light to. Why have I been trained to, encouraged to, disassociate from all of the hard truths here? To pull back from every discomfort. Because there is an active effort to keep the individuals with access to divinity as far away from what's really happening here as possible. And the only way to combat that infiltration, to stop that infiltration, is to look at it and to engage with it. I acknowledge that there is something wrong here, and that's the reason why I'm here in the first place. I didn't come to Earth to pretend that I am somewhere else. There is a feeling in the air of somewhat of a learned helplessness. There's nothing I can do anyway. I see that there are things happening that I don't agree with, but there's nothing I can do anyway. What I need to do is to support the reality of the highest benefit by aligning with my bliss and light. This idea is infiltration. It's nonsense. The idea that you are powerless and must pretend that you are somewhere where you are not, when you are the individuals, you are the cutting edge of this collective that has spent your life deeply connected to divinity, refining that connection to divinity. The idea that those closest to divinity must be furthest from the world is not enlightenment, it is a psyop. This has to be acknowledged at some point. That darkness is trying to buy off spiritual people with promises of fame and wealth, with promises of continual states of bliss if they only turn a blind eye to the world and focus completely on their own personal gain. That's not the use for intuition, which is why there's so often so much resistance, pushback, odd clunkiness along the way of that spiritual path. Light is trying to dismantle this way of being, this ideology, as quickly as possible. Now more than ever, when you can look around and there truly is something wrong, clearly, this call internally that brought spiritual people to spirituality in the first place is knocking relentlessly, saying, please wake up and do your job. Do what you came here to do. And do not be misled by ideology that promises you fame and wealth that do not matter and are not real. For every dystopian future lying ahead, every aspect of even the worst of timelines, there is an answer that already lies here within individuals who are deeply connected to their own truth. All that's really required to save Earth from these terrible futures is for spiritual people to acknowledge who they are and to stop playing games. To stop pretending that any amount of fame or wealth will justify going out of alignment. To justify that any amount of personal bliss will actually make the world any better. To justify that the reason why you came here is to manipulate energetics for your own personal gain. There's nothing about that that's true. And every spiritual person already knows that. So what we wish to do here is to settle into the hard truths that everyone already knows. And to help reorient this context to create a very clear understanding that you are here to do something and to be something, and the time for that is now. If you have any intuitive access whatsoever, you can clearly see the hysteria, and you can see the limitations of operating from biology, from thoughts alone. You can see the limitations of what we could call logic OS. Logic OS is easily manipulated. Basic psychology, basic NLP. Fear, top-down pressure, authority. Flimsy rationalizations that don't track and all contradict each other. That's enough to manipulate the logic. But the only reason why anyone could see that is because they themselves are not hooked to the same degree. So if you are a spiritual individual with any sort of intuitive access whatsoever, and you can see that there is psychological manipulation happening here and now, your role in all of this is to call it out. And at the very least, to acknowledge it internally. To acknowledge that there's something more important here than your own personal life, your own personal future. Because your own personal future does not exist within a civilization that's on the path that it's on now. There is no wealth and abundance and prosperity, no matter how much bliss you may anchor into your being. It's not how the world works. You cannot exist in isolation, in bliss, while the world slips into dystopia. That's nothing more than a lie from beings, physical and non-physical, that wish to disconnect those with the most access to light from the genuine problems, from the genuine circumstances that are here. So please be here. Please remember who you are and where you are. The more time you spend ripping yourself apart internally, monitoring your thoughts and emotion for personal gain, the more the darkness wins here. The more the darkness slows down this transition of your civilization into something beautiful. Given everything that's here, all of the spiritual people all over the world playing their parts, if everything goes according to plan, so to speak, this civilization's transition from the first paradigm into the second, from darkness into light, is inevitable. But what must be understood about that, about these projections of reality, is that these timelines are never certain. And that within the timelines that you can all feel to a certain degree, light wins here. But within these timelines is a role that you play and that others play. And it's possible to opt out of that. It's possible to not play that role and to change ever so slightly, those potentialities through your own choice of who you will be and the role you will play. These timelines of ensured light, of this ensured awakening, include spiritual people all around the world, include you. Acknowledging where you are, seeing the genuine corruption here on this planet, seeing the genuine slippery slope, and acknowledging intuition, that feeling that brought you here in the first place. Acknowledging the truth, your genuine feelings about this reality, what's happening now, your genuine internal callings to do something, to say something, to be something. Here, within all of this. Please acknowledge this. Please acknowledge your role in this. And acknowledge that you, here on the cutting edge, as a spiritual individual, are a part of this timeline's fulfillment. Are a part of light coming here. And of all of these dystopian realities that are floating around right now, vanishing, not coming to fruition. Please play your role. And please do not be misled by illusions of personal gain in exchange for disassociation, passivity, a free pass for darkness to do as it will here. Please don't play that game. It's time more than ever for spiritual people to trust themselves and to stop trusting ideas that do not track with reality, that have never really made sense. If you can acknowledge where you really are, the intuition that you've already spent time developing through this long spiritual journey will guide you through those circumstances, no matter how hard they may be, and it may be intense. But your thoughts and emotions aren't creating your reality, your decisions are. Are you choosing what's coming through your intuitive channels about this reality here, or are you doing something else? That's the only dividing line. Light is here. It's operating here. No matter what's happening, no matter how hard it may be, no matter how challenging it may feel, light is here, always here in these circumstances. You will never find light leaving your body and floating off planet. You will never find light disassociating into emotions that feel good. You will never find light there because light's already here. It's the only place that light is, here in these circumstances, with a clear, ideal, personal path forward that benefits the larger whole. So if you were looking for light in all of this, in these challenging circumstances, and you're having a hard time staying positive, we want to help break up this puzzle a little bit and remind you that you don't need to stay positive. It's okay to feel challenged in challenging times. You won't find light in positivity, but you will find light here in these circumstances when you look here, come back all the way here, into all the things you already know about what's really happening right now. Acknowledge them as true, and you will find your personal path forward, your personal mission and purpose for this very moment in time, here and now, from divinity to your soul through your intuition. But if this spiritual population does not wake up, those dystopian realities will be pushed through by force, while those most capable sit on the sidelines holding out for personal gain, if only they can get their thoughts and emotions to be perfect enough. Please do not let that happen. Please come back here and be you. So much love to you. Despite how confronting this may be, we also want to deeply reassure you that you're doing great. Let everything that you have done, everything that you have believed, be in the past, and be deeply honest with yourself about what is truly here. Settle into peace and find your truth. Please let this be a reminder of how you really feel about what's here right now. And let this be a reminder that it is you with this access that is most capable to prevent those highly dystopian timelines. Again, so much love to you. And we'll speak to you at a later time. Bye for now.